Hi, y'all. Welcome to Spirit Mail. I am Cheryl. This is Daily Mail episode. I'm gonna try to get it right. 35. Usually, what I say in the video and what's on the title don't match up because I'm not real good at keeping track. I need to quit saying stuff like that though. So tonight, I want to talk about no doubt letting our parents off the hook. I've told you many times, several times, how much, I had great parents. I was very blessed. But there were a few things that happened along the way that I probably could have held on to and blamed them for everything that ever went wrong in my life if I chose to. So, and we're going to talk about a couple of those things because I feel like it's important. I'm not a guru. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. I just know what has worked for me. And so we're going to talk about letting our parents off the hook. One of the things that we talk about sometimes in these readings, we talk about the root chakra, our foundational energies, the things that we learned growing up, where we find our security, where our obligations are, what our responsibilities are, and all that stuff. I don't know what I'm gonna name. I think I'm gonna call it let our parents off the hook. So a long time ago, a few years back, I actually started a YouTube channel. I don't know if it's still up. It was called POTUS in Me, and that was supposed to be pondering the unwavering spirit in me. And there's a few videos on there, but one of them was about the things we learned growing up, right? And so I remember when I was a little bitty girl, probably about 3 or 4 years old, my big sister was going to walk down the street to play at a friend's house, and I wanted to go. And I was told no. But I really wanted to go. So I snuck out of the house and followed my sister to her friend's house, but I followed her like I was crawling in the ditch so she couldn't see me. And whenever she got there, and then I got there right behind her, of course, she walked me back home, and I got in trouble. My mom was upset. But then, a little bit later, my dad got home. He worked 7 and 7. And he got home and he walked in the door with his bag, and I was like, "Yay, Daddy," and run and jump up in Daddy's arms, and Mom is there cooking dinner, and she tells me to go outside and play because she needs to talk to Dad. So then a little bit later, I'm on the tire swing that's, hooked to the tree, and Dad comes outside and he's got this big swirly sucker in his hand. I don't know if I told y'all this story or not. I feel like I did because I'm talking about the swirly sucker. And he says, I brought each one of you kids this home, but you can't have yours because you didn't obey your mom. And I was really heartbroken, but I don't think I was as heartbroken about the sucker as I was heartbroken about Dad being upset with me. So I learned that we have to obey, right? These are things that we learn, things that we pick up, right? You have to obey. That's a lesson they were trying to teach me. The reward, if you don't obey, there's no reward. So then fast forward 8 years, and I'm in this beauty pageant. It was called Our Little Miss. My mom and Dad put me in dancing when I was 2 years old. And so I'm 8 years old. I'm in this beauty pageant, and I win, queen. And my daddy, who's about this tall, a little bit shorter than I am. I'm 5'2", maybe 5'3". My daddy's a little bit shorter than me. He comes running, and I'm telling you, he jumps up on that stage. And he's so excited. He scoops me up in his arms, and he's swinging me around and saying how proud he is and all that stuff. So I learned if I perform, I get love. If I perform and do well, I get love, right? If I misbehave, the reward's taken away. But if I do well, perform and do well, then I get love. So it's kind of like one of those things where our programming teaches us. He didn't, I mean, I don't know that that was intentionally his what he was trying to teach me when he jumped up on that stage, but that was the message that I got. If I perform and do exactly the right thing, then I get rewards and I get love. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. That was just something I interpreted, how I interpreted it, those things as a little girl. So throughout life, you know, we think, well, we have to perform, we have to make other people happy if we're going to have their approval. Okay, I don't even know why I told that story, because that's not even what I want to talk about. Except that they weren't intentionally teaching me that. That's just something that I picked up. So then the other thing is that when I'm 16 years old, y'all heard me talk about last night, I think, that I ran away, right? I actually ran away twice. The first time I ran away, we went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I had a friend who was pregnant, and she wanted to get away from her mom and dad because they weren't speaking to her. She thought she was pregnant. So I had another friend that she and I were driving back and forth to an alternative school, not alternative like they have today, but it's like a home school, but one lady at her house does it. So we skipped out that day and went to meet my other friend, and my other friend wanted to run away, and I said, okay, let's go. And she says, what? And I said, let's go. I have my sister's car. Let's go. We'll go. Where you want to go? So she wanted to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma to her aunt's house. Well, I got all excited because I said, oh, that's where Oral Roberts University is. Yes, let's go, because I can go to school there. I'm not even graduated. I didn't even graduate high school yet, but I'm thinking, yes, I can go to Oral Roberts University. So, and the other girl came along for the ride. So we go to Tulsa. We end up, you know, coming back. Long story. It's kind of a funny story, but okay, I'm going to tell you. So we get there, and her aunt says, the only way you can stay is if you call your parents and let them know you're safe. So we all looked at each other and said, okay, who's calling? You know, because she said we would only need to call one parent, and that parent could call the other parents. So who's calling? Well, we didn't know. So we decided to draw straws. I drew the short straw. But before we drew straws, because I was getting the straws ready, and I said, now listen, whoever calls, we can't tell them where we are. We're not going to tell them where we are and anything like that. We're just going to tell them that we're safe. That's all they need to know, is that we're safe. So I drew the short straw, so I had to call my mom. So they said, Miss, you have a collect call from Cheryl. Will you pay? And she starts crying. Yes, I'll pay. So she's crying. I said, Mom, I just want you to know that we're okay. Where are you at? She says, so I start crying. We're at Raynan's aunt's house in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So my mom and the one who just came along for the ride, her mom came to Tulsa to get us. And my mom and I drove back in my sister's car, which I took the week before she got married, by the way. And I kind of stole her car. Never with ill intent. It was just, you know, we were going to Tulsa because Raylene was pregnant. Her parents weren't talking to her and all that stuff. Anyway, so on the way back, my mom said, you know, we're not going to punish you because we think you learned your lesson, because I was crying so much on the phone. We think you learned your lesson and we're not going to punish you, blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple months later, I run away again. And this time, whenever I get back, my dad is like up to here, and because he comes and gets me, and he said, we've been bending over backwards for you since you're 2 years old. And I said, Dad, I couldn't make you bend over backwards for me whenever I was 2. He says, you're not listening to me. You don't want to pay attention. And he was so frustrated and so just out of control, not knowing what to do. And he says, you want to know what would happen to you? He says, you would get beat and murdered and left for dead in the street. You want to know how that feels? And then he started hitting me. And he'd never done that before, ever. But he did that day. And he hit me with his fist. And my face was so swollen. My mom finally said, Merlin, stop, please stop. But my face was so swollen. The next morning, Mom cooked bacon and eggs and toast. She had a great big old breakfast spread, and I couldn't even eat because my face was swollen shut. But years after that, I realized again, taking responsibility, not saying I'm guilty, but I had a part in that too. I had pushed him to the limit where where he didn't know what to do. I don't think I would have known what to do in that situation now as an adult. But even before I became a parent, now as a parent, even before I became a parent, I was actually grateful, not for the physical abuse, but for him stopping me in my tracks, because no telling what would have happened to me. He was trying to protect me, and I was being so um, unprotectable. I was uncontrollable, and I wasn't bad. I had things to do in my little mind. I just had places to go, and there was so much to find out about the world. But and he was trying to shut me down because he was scared for me. So I'll never forget, years later, I wrote him a Father's Day card, and I said, I am so grateful for that day that you came and got me and stopped me from actually leaving town again, because we were running away. We went to a friend's house and we were getting stuff ready before we left, so we hadn't actually run away, but that was our intent. And so he got me. He brought me home. But anyway, so that could have gone either way, right? I could have stayed mad at him forever because he put his hands on me. But whenever we step back and we look at something, and I'm not promoting violence by any means, but when we step back and we really take a look at something, we can put ourselves in that other person's shoes. He was trying to protect the unprotectable. I'm telling you, I was busy. I had things to do, and I thought I knew it all, and I wasn't scared of anything. I was just going to do it. So I wrote him a Father's Day card, and I told him that I'm very grateful for that day that he, stopped me in my tracks. And he cried and apologized. And it wasn't the first time. He apologized many, many times before that. And I said, Dad, that's not why I'm writing that in there. I just want you to know that I understand. And, I wanted him to let go of it for himself. Plus, I was really grateful. So now we're going to fast forward again. So that was a couple different times where, we could hang on to something and say, and I know people have had some really bad stuff happen with their parents. I know that. But some of us haven't had it that bad, but we hang on to blaming our parents for anything that goes wrong in our life. And I don't think that's fair, because and I don't think we understand that until we become parents. And even then, we still don't get it. But if we can, I'm hoping this is coming out right. If we can separate ourselves from the incident, right, and try to put ourselves in their shoes and try to find out what is it they were going through at that time that provoked them to act the way that they acted, or to say the thing that they said. What is it about their history that made them think that what was going on was okay? Which brings me to the next story. When my daughter was molested, and my parents basically chose the perpetrator, their son-in-law, my sister's husband, over my daughter, I was devastated. But whenever I go back and look at their histories, at the things that they went through, very similar, only very much more consistently happening in their lives as they grew up, and nobody stood up for them, and they got over it, and they were okay. They were sane people who had a good life together, who had six beautiful kids, and all these grandkids. They survived it. Why was I wanting to rock the boat? Because I could do what their parents did, right? And just make them live with it. And my child would, in their minds, would have been fine along the way. So some people say, God, I can't believe your parents did that. But when you consider where they came from and what happened in their life, you have to have compassion. You have to, I think, and I'm not saying you, I had to have compassion. I felt like I needed to have compassion. I needed to be able to understand it from their point of view. Doesn't mean I had to agree with it. Doesn't mean I had to do it their way. But I needed to let go of the anger toward them because they were only doing what they knew to do. And that's the case for a lot of people that all of us have hard times with, that whenever we're looking at somebody and judging their life and angry with them because they're not doing things the way that we think they should do, and all those things, we need to stop. I hate whenever I say that, but it's like we should maybe take a break and step back and say, okay, what is it in their life that causes them to act that way? So whenever we sit here and blame our parents and hold anger toward our parents, I think we do ourselves a big injustice because we don't allow ourselves to step back and look at it from a higher, like a bigger view where we could see what happened in their life that brought them up to that place, because there might be some pain in their life that they've never had the opportunity to deal with, whether it's because they were never given the opportunity or they were too scared to take the opportunity or whatever the case was. It's possible, and this is, I'm calling it, let's let our parents off the hook, but really it's anybody that we're having trouble letting them off the hook. There's something in their life causing them to be that way. Doesn't mean you have to do things their way. Does it mean that you have to let them be? That was the time, and that my husband at that time told my dad, you are not welcome here anymore. And it wasn't because we didn't love my daddy. It was because there was too much disruption in our family. Reconciliation came much later, and I was Dad's caregiver, the last part of his life, me and his then wife, because my mom passed away way before that. But I was able to be there and care for him as he was living the last days of his life. Did I do it out of guilt? No. Did I do it out of obligation? No. I did it genuinely out of love for my dad. And I feel like the only way that was even possible was being able to step aside from how that other incident affected me and see what is it about him that caused him to react the way that he did. So I feel like it's not just our parents, really. It's other people in our lives, exes, kids, friends, anybody that doesn't act the way that we think they're supposed to act. But I think I started with parents because as we're growing up, sometimes parents do things. My daughter, let me tell you, my oldest daughter, we had a little confrontation one time. It's been a couple years ago now, but we had a confrontation, and it came out of her mouth that I always picked men over her. And I said, why are you even saying that? And she says, well, because why did you move to San Antonio? Well, I moved to San Antonio because I had a friend that lived there who could get me a good job there, and there was no jobs here. It was like she had made up in her mind what my motives were. But she was just a little girl. And you know what? It probably wasn't even her making that up in her mind. It could have been other people talking about me and what they thought my motives were that planted these seeds in her head. Who knows? The good thing is that it came out and we were able to have a discussion about it. So we never really know the whole picture. So whenever we're angry at someone or wanting to hold on to something, I challenge you or I invite you to step back and try to look at things, and if you don't know what could have happened, and if you know them well enough, ask them, hey, what tell me about your life. I mean, I don't know, or ask God to show you about their life. Why would they act that way? Anyway, letting people off the hook. And like I said, I started out with let's let our parents off the hook, but it's really not just our parents. It's anybody that hurts us along the way. I really and truly believe that there's room for us to make, I say make concessions, but extend compassion. And again, not condone what they did, because I would never condone somebody taking their fist and hitting their child like my dad did to me. But I can understand, I can backing up, I can understand why he did it. The frustration. Just because we're parents doesn't mean we're perfect. Just because we're parents doesn't mean we don't get frustration. We don't get frustrated. And there's probably some people on this channel who's going to say, well, yeah, but he could have done something different. Well, based on how he was raised, I don't know. I think I came out pretty good knowing what I know about his upbringing. So, and that was, like I said, the first time he ever laid a hand on me, and the last time. But I had driven him to the point where he just did not. And I'm not blaming myself or taking any guilt, but I will take my part of that responsibility, what part I played in it. Ho'oponopono says we have to take 100% responsibility for our lives. And so whenever you hear me saying something like that, I'm not saying I'm guilty and I was a bad person or anything like that. I'm just being I'm putting on my big girl panties and saying I brought that into my life. Not necessarily on purpose, because I didn't know what his history was at that time. I didn't know what kind of upbringing he had. But when I learned all that stuff, and I don't even know that he ever knew that I learned about his childhood, but when I learned about his childhood, I was devastated for the man. But I was also able to understand so much about why he acted the way he acted. It didn't mean I had to condone it. I didn't have to condone that, him putting his hands on me, and I certainly didn't have to condone the fact that he wanted me to just forgive my brother-in-law and act like nothing ever happened. I wasn't going to condone that either. But it didn't change the fact that I loved him. And I could understand why he was the way he was about it. So, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, it's Roundtable Mail, Coffee with Roundtable Mail. Listen, if we're not on right at 8 o'clock, it's just because I'm having some kind of technical difficulty. I'm sure I'm going to try to get on earlier to make sure that we're on by 8 o'clock. If you don't see us by 8:15 or so, just kind of watch throughout the day. That just means that I couldn't do it live, but I will post it whenever we're done with it. And I'm looking forward to it. I got to meet 2 of our participants this afternoon when we did a trial run, and I'm really excited. They're both very young. And then the third person didn't come. Well, the third and fourth person didn't come in for the trial run, but we'll see them in the morning, I hope. Okay, God, guides, angels, archangels, Holy Spirit, for this particular daily mail, please show me, is there anything that I could have said differently or that I missed? We thank you for clear and concise messages. We thank you for love, light, and prosperity, and we thank you for clarification, confirmation, and validation. Please show me clearly, what is the PS that goes with this message? Wow. Okay, so there's the Page of Wands, right? It's about passion. It's about purpose and creativity and inspiration, and it's about communication with spirit. So in our relationships, are we passionate enough about our relationships, or are we passionate enough even about ourselves to understand other people? Because remember, one of the theory behind Ho'oponopono is that we take 100% responsibility for our lives because we attracted something in us. Something in us attracted those circumstances into our life, right? So are we passionate enough about ourselves and about our wholeness to take 100% responsibility for our lives, and to clear it and clean it so that we don't continue to walk in that throughout our lives. Now there are going to be some cases where people do things to us. I understand that. One could say that that's what happened with my dad, but I'm telling you, I had a part in that. I was making it hard for him to control me. And as my parent, he felt like that was his job, to control me and to protect me until I was old enough to go out there and do it on my own. Yo, we have a lot of heartache in our lives, and we get to choose what to do with it. You know, whenever it's hurt from a parent, it feels deep and betrayed, like we've been betrayed, right? That's how I felt whenever my parents wanted me to just act like nothing happened with my brother-in-law. Make my daughter understand about make her forgive and bring her, go to family gatherings and all that stuff. I felt very betrayed. When my dad hit me, I felt very betrayed that moment. But whenever we can step back and look at it, then we can release this heartache. Because remember, it's out of the issues, guard our heart with all diligence, because out of it become the issues of life. So when we carry hurt in our heart that we don't release, it causes more hurt to come into our life, because that's the vibration of our heart, and that's what we attract back into us, is more of that. That's how all that stuff works. So we have to do our job. We have to take our responsibility in releasing it, in cleaning it, and letting it go and clearing our heart so that we can move forward in a different way. And there's the Emperor. So whenever we do that, remember, the Emperor is the culmination of all the kings, right? He's resourceful, he's emotionally intelligent, he's very smart, and he's inspired. He's all of those things. And this is what I feel Spirit is saying to us. We are all this king. We are all this king. Are we going to walk in that? Because emotional intelligence says, this hurt, it was beneficial to me maybe in the first month, right? Maybe it helped me in the first month, depending on the devastation. Maybe it was only beneficial to me for a week. Maybe it was only beneficial to me for a couple of days, because we do learn and grow through hurt. But after that, hanging on to it any longer than what the benefit was is not beneficial. It doesn't allow us to be this embodiment of every king in the deck. So that's our daily mail for tonight. I think I'm still going to call it letting our parents off the hook. But truly, it's about letting everybody off the hook, even when they hurt us. And I know that there's been people that have suffered hurt way worse than I ever suffered. I know that. But I still think that God's got a plan for you bigger than anything you could ever imagine, and way bigger than the heartache that we want to hold on to. So, with that said, thank you so much. I can't wait to see y'all in the morning at Coffee with the Round Table Mail. And until then, y'all go out and have a super duper day. I love y'all. Bye.